voice is quiet, almost a whisper, intimate and close. It's the sound of someone sharing a secret they can't hold in. There's a subtle, almost melancholy quality to the tone. I want you to think about something, just for a moment. Think about the most private parts of your life. The conversations you've had when no one else was listening. The things you've typed out late at night, thinking no one would ever see them. Every single thought, every little secret, it's all in there, isn't it? Stored away on a phone, in a cloud. A digital key to your entire existence. Now, imagine someone you live with. Someone you see every single day. The person who knows your coffee order, the person who's seen you at your worst. Imagine they take that key and just hand it over to the FBI. But they didn't do it because they found a crime. No. They did it for a reason that had nothing to do with evidence, and everything to do with a betrayal so deep, it makes you question if you can ever truly trust another soul. This isn't a story about a criminal case. This is a story about what happens when your private life becomes a weapon. And the true reason TylerRobinson's roommate gave the FBI his private messages. This isn't a simple case, and it's not going to be a simple explanation. We're going to walk through a story where political division spilled over into personal destruction, and where the most basic human trust was shattered. If you're ready to look at a case that's less about a true crime, and more about a true horror story, then this is for you. Hit that subscribe button, and don't look away. Because the truth behind this story is even darker than you can imagine. For a while, TylerRobinson's life was exactly what you'd expect. He was a student. He woke up, he got a coffee, he sat through lectures he didn't always care about. He had a part-time job serving burgers and fries. He spent his nights playing video games, or scrolling through his phone, a glow from the screen his only company as the hours slipped by. He had a girlfriend he talked to on the phone every night, a tight-knit group of friends, and dreams of a future he was still trying to figure out. He was just a guy. An ordinary guy. And in that ordinary life was a roommate. A close friend, really. They had an easy rhythm. They shared the same cramped space, they ate the same late-night pizza, and they saw each other at their most exhausted, their most vulnerable. This was a person who knew Tyler's habits, his secrets, his inside jokes. They were a team, a duo navigating the chaos of young adulthood. There was no reason to suspect anything. No reason to believe this person, who shared his walls and his life, was not who they seemed. And in the background of it all was the hum of the political world. The constant chatter and debate. And for Tyler, a lot of that centered on a man named Charlie Kirk. Tyler was a fan. He'd spend hours diving into Kirk's content, listening to podcasts, and talking with other like-minded people in online groups. It was a part of his life, a part of his identity. It was all on his phone. All documented in his private conversations. Then, things changed. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first. The rhythm in the apartment shifted. The easy silence was replaced by a strange tension. His roommate would just watch him. A quiet glance from across the room. A strange look when Tyler was on his phone. It was nothing you could point to, nothing you could explain, but the air was different. Colder. Until one day, that feeling wasn't a feeling anymore. It was a reality. And in a single moment, a sudden, horrifying discovery, Tyler realized that all of that silence, all of those strange glances, all of that tension, it was a secret being kept. And that his friend, his roommate, was just a few steps from handing the FBI his private life. And Tyler had no idea why. That knock wasn't the delivery guy. It wasn't a friend stopping by. It was the kind of knock that makes the air go cold. The kind of knock that belongs to a police procedural, not to real life. And standing on his front porch were two men in dark jackets, badges glinting in the light. They didn't have a warrant for his arrest. They didn't ask him any questions about a crime. They just held up a phone. And Tyler looked at the screen, and he saw his own words. His private chats. His deepest, most unfiltered thoughts, laid bare. It was like they were holding up a mirror to his soul and everything was exposed. For a moment, the world just stopped. He was hit with a wave of sheer, paralyzing shock. The blood drained from his face, and his mind began to race, tumbling over itself. How did they get this? Who would do this? The questions came in a panicked blur, but the answer was already screaming in the back of his mind. The strange glances. The tension in the house. It all clicked into place with a sickening finality. It was his roommate. His friend. The person he had trusted, but here's the most chilling part of it all. The motive wasn't what you'd expect. There was no secret criminal enterprise. No dark web activity. His roommate hadn't handed over the messages to expose a crime. They had done it because they believed Tyler's thoughts were dangerous. Not in a physical way, not with threats of violence, but in a far more insidious way. They had read every one of Tyler's messages, his political conversations, his social media posts, his private opinions, and they had come to a horrifying conclusion. They weren't acting as an informant. They were acting as a judge. They had decided that Tyler's political views, his support for Charlie Kirk, and his place in those online circles were so morally wrong, so ideologically corrupt, that they had a perceived obligation to stop him. Not by talking to him. Not by arguing. But by turning his life over to the authorities. They had declared a personal war on his mind, and they used his own words as the weapon. This was never a criminal case. It was an ideological betrayal, driven by a conviction so strong it justified a complete and total destruction of trust. And so, Tyler's world was shattered. The privacy he took for granted, that we all take for granted, was gone. His phone, once a window to his world, became a monument to his betrayal. The fallout was immediate. His personal life was dismantled. Friends, hearing about the incident, couldn't look at him the same way. Every text, every shared joke, every late-night conversation was suddenly a potential piece of evidence, tainted by the knowledge that a trusted confidant had been watching, waiting. The psychological toll of living under that kind of surveillance, even after the fact, is profound. It's a loss of self. A feeling of being fundamentally unsafe in your own life. This story, though deeply personal, reveals something far bigger. It's a chilling look at the collateral damage of our current political landscape. When ideological divides become so deep, they start to tear at the fabric of our personal relationships. When one person's beliefs are seen as a threat so great that another person, a friend, feels justified in destroying their life, that is the very real danger of our extreme polarization. This case forces us to ask critical questions. What are the legal and ethical boundaries here? Does a person have a right to privacy in their own home, in their own texts? Can a private citizen legally hand over someone else's data to law enforcement without a warrant, or even a crime being committed? Experts say the legal ground is shaky at best, and the ethics are even more complex. A legal scholar might tell you that while the FBI can accept information from any source, the roommate's actions may not be protected. A psychologist might explain that this isn't just a political act, but a manifestation of a deeper psychological conflict, a perceived moral obligation twisted by fanaticism. And in the end, that's what this is. Not a crime of passion, but a crime of ideology. A story that shows us just how far some are willing to go, not to protect themselves, but to punish an idea they despise. And so, where does a story like this end? What happened to the man who made the choice to turn his life upside down, to betray the very person who trusted him most? In the end, the roommate faced no legal consequences. He was a cooperative witness. A source of information. He walked away from the wreckage he created, his actions seen not as a crime, but as an assist to an investigation. And that is perhaps the most unsettling part of all. His perspective, if it could ever be fully known, is locked away in a mind that saw a friend's private thoughts not as an act of trust, but as an act of war. And what about Tyler? He was left to pick up the pieces of a life that had been fundamentally broken. The academic and social fallout was immediate, but the real damage was deeper, a wound to his trust in humanity itself. How do you ever rebuild that? How do you look at a new person and not wonder what they're truly thinking, what they're secretly recording, what they would do if their beliefs were challenged? For Tyler, the digital world, the one we all live in, became a permanent minefield. This is the end of Tyler's story, but it's just the beginning of a question that will haunt all of us. Because in an age where our lives are laid bare in texts and posts, where every thought is recorded and every opinion can be a public act, how well do you really know the people in your life? Do you truly know what lines they would cross? And what are the real costs of our online lives, where every connection has the potential to become a devastating betrayal?